Today, my guest is former WWE developmental talent. You may remember him from Tough Enough. He's probably America's favorite Tough Enough contestant, Mr.
Oh,
ZZ Loop. ZZ,
you're
how
gonna
are
make,
you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. You're gonna make me blush, is what you're gonna do. Gonna happen. But no, I'm doing pretty good. We got a cold front here in South Louisiana, and it's overcast today, and it's not the inside of an oven, so we're doing pretty good. How are you today?
Good. We're getting a cold front up here as well, but I'm in Indiana, so it's hot and cold, different, rain, snow every day,
Oh,
so it's
yeah,
hard to know how to dress daily.
yes, sir. So what? Tell me a little bit about you, bro. What do you do? What's what's gonna happen?
So what I do is I cover people's journey in professional wrestling. It's not always about the destination. I figure, everybody always asks, usually with these kind of interviews, everybody asks the same questions over and over. So I like to go a different path and just, how professional wrestling got into your life, what made you want to pursue this, your time there, and then just overall, how was your experience?
Well, I tell you, it started down here in the bias. Here, watch. Let me move you just a little bit here so I can kind of get closer and talk to you. So it started down here in the bias systems, and I wrestled alligators all my life, and we ran a swamp tour. And my mom and my dad, and they. I'm not gonna say I grew up before I was supposed to, but seeing all the tourists from around the world, that was quite an experience for me. So I had a lot more knowledge about the different societies around the world and different cultures and stuff because they would all come on the swamp tour. So I learned how to talk to adults. Is that bridge going to bother you, by the way?
No, you're fine.
Okay, good. I, I learned how to talk to adults, and tell stories because being a Cajun, I mean, Cajun people, that's what we are. We're storytellers, a
Hmm.
long line of storytellers. It's in my genetics, it's in my DNA. But then to be a swamp tour guide on top of that, and your parents own the swamp tour, I mean, you really learn how to tell some stories and captivate people.
Hmm.
So I got a little bit older, and I was playing football at college at Nichols, and I I used to bounce for one of the local bars here called the Ice House, and the owner of the Ice House was asked if I wanted to run security backstage for the Thibodeau Fireman's Fair. It's one of the biggest fireman fairs in the nation, right? And I said, sure, why not? And at that show, Chris Cago, the country singer, the guy who I believe he sang "Chicks Dig It" as
Hmm.
the name of that song. Yeah, he was going to be the main headliner guy. And when I was backstage and I was just kind of being around, I knew everybody at Thibodeau. Everybody knew me from the Swamp Tour, so his manager came up and he's like, "Man, do you wrestle?" And I'm like, "Alligators," being funny. And he's like, "No, no, no, serious, do you wrestle?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, alligators. I got this and that." And we started talking, and I started telling him stories because what else was there to do? And he's like, "Well, look, man, you gotta be on this show. Tough enough is they're gonna try to find the next WWE superstar." And I said, "Oh man, I don't know." And he said, "No, no, I'm one of the scouts, man. I'm telling you, you should do it. You should do it." And I'm like, "Okay." And you know that feeling when like something's too good to be true.
Hmm.
You're like, I don't know. Well, about a week or two later, I got a call from some people, and they told me to submit a video. So I submitted a video, and it started climbing, man. Because I believe so. Like, out of 14,000 people that submitted videos, the top 7 guys, or 8 girls, or 6 guys, it's 13 people. So it was 6 guys, 7 girls, 7 guys, 6 girls, one of the two. Um, and whoever had the most popular videos explaining why they were tough enough and why they wanted to get into the WWE, they'd get picked. So my video kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And before I knew it, I was on a plane to Orlando, Florida for the WWE minicamp tryout. And when I got there, in life, I'm a bigger guy.
Hmm.
I'm society, I'm a bigger person. But when you put me in the WWE, that's the cream of the crops, man. That's ex MMA, that's ex NFL, I mean, that's people that are like genetically blessed.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that for all of them. Everybody in the WWE works so hard to achieve, uh, the bodies that they have. But it's still, if you're only 4'5", You got
Mm-hmm.
to have genetics to grow, and stuff like that. So, um, I was short. I was small. They got guys in there that are like 6'7", 6'8", 415 pounds with abs. They got some true blue monsters of the human species.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to really rely and lean on my ability to talk and tell stories and connect with people that way than strength and moves and stuff. So while I was in there, Triple H came and he saved me from going home because I was like right at that threshold from not getting picked
Mm-hmm.
and getting picked and going to the show. So Triple H came and he saved me and he put me in the show, and that was it, man. Tough Enough started, and it was a whole new world. It was a whole nother like experience for me. It was life changing, really, because you can't. It's the opportunity of 10 lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, I'll never get that opportunity again in my life." Yep, you and probably your grandkids and whatever else. Y'all not. Yeah. So yeah.
Did you grow up watching professional wrestling, or was this your first experience with professional wrestling?
I got into professional wrestling when you remember when TNA was getting real big?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of when I got into it. And I started following along with all the storylines and like learning some people. And I tell you, my favorite person, believe it or not, at the time he was with TNA, it was Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Samoa Joe, man, that dude, bro. I was a kid and I was invested. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? As we all are. And um, then my life started to kind of turn from TV more into like real life. Well, like, okay, well, we got these 85 French people coming in on Tuesday, and we got this bachelorette party coming in the next day, and then we got to cook for all these people in the boats and Coast Guard inspections and wildlife fishery inspections and all the things. So it was more or less me going from a teenager to a young man at that point. And I got
Mm-hmm.
kind of away from the TV screens, and then I started my college career and my football career in college, and then that's when I got WWE found me again, and I'm like, wow, man, check this out. So I didn't know as much as I probably should have known,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I knew about it enough from when I did get invested when I was a very young man, probably the age
Mm-hmm.
of 10, 12 years old.
So was that an easy decision when you sent your tape, or was because I know how busy you are. Have you always been that busy?
Um, I would say so. I've always been busy,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like now, it's different levels of busy. And
Mm-hmm.
like what I mean by that is, as a kid, well, I had a schedule, man. I was going fishing in the morning, and I was gonna go over here and hunt some squirrels in the evening, and then I had to cut out some time to skin all that and then package it up. But now it's like, okay, I'm still just as busy, but now it's things that matter. It's things that's going to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
It's things that are like, well, this truck needs to get fixed. So, this person could go and I got the ability to do it. So let me help them out and different things like that. So now it's more of, it's a different level
Mm-hmm.
of business. So, um, yeah, that's kind of where I was sitting at. But when I went to WWE, it wasn't that. At first, to me, it wasn't gonna be a life change.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go over here and then now this is gonna be my life. This is what I'm doing. It was, it was. I'm gonna go check them out, see what it is. They're probably not gonna like me. I'm gonna come home. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
did it. But then when I got out there and I was like, man, this is awesome. And I tell you what really changed it for me here was the kids, man.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the main goal of the WWE?
To entertain all the kids and get everybody hooked and involved with the storylines and wrestling really to me is like it's passion. It's something it'll mesmerize you. You can fall in love with it, and it distracts you from maybe some bad experiences or bad
Reality.
times in life. Yeah.
It's an escape from reality for
Hmm.
not just little kids, but all the way up to the matriarch of the family,
Hmm.
grandma. So uh, the main objective for me in WWE was to take the people on the best emotional roller coaster ride that I could in the little bit of time that I had with them. Now, I didn't walk in there with this attitude, but I learned that
Hmm.
over time of being in there. So when I got in there, the kids, what I mean by the kids is if you could get hit with a chair 5 times and land on the back of your head, 4 or 5 times, then you could get punched in the face a bunch of times and flip over the ropes, and then you could still get up in some kind of way, win that match. Oh my gosh, man, you're just like a superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids, their faces light up. Joy is the purest form of fuel,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and you get a lot more joy out of kids. You remember the movie Monsters Inc. when they would go in, they'd make all the kids scream and stuff, and they'd fill these canisters, and it was screams. And then towards the end of the movie, they got wholesome because they're making the kids laugh.
Mm-hmm.
That could not be a truer movie, bro. The best medicine is laughter, right? And the purest laughter is from kids. And when you could get that, and you could make them feel, and you could get them involved, and you have all these elements that come together, that's where the magic of WWE resides, and that's what makes it happen. So it really changed my mind towards WWE because the kids and all the people that look up to you, and they look up to all these people. It's like, wow, well, if he could do it, I could do it. And there was nothing special about me, man. I was a slightly overweight, chubby kid from South Louisiana who wrestled alligators and liked to cook. And I will tell you this though, and it kind of sat with me for a while. When I first got to the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, um, the day I walked in for the minicamp tryout before the TV show Tough Enough began,
Mm-hmm.
I had a target about yay big plastered on my back, straight out the gate. And I'm gonna tell you why. Nobody knew me. Nobody. What's up, bruh? Not much, not much. I'm on the phone. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit later. All right. Everybody pass, man. They blow their horn. They want to know what I'm doing. They want to know when I'm gonna be. That's just like, damn. I love them all, but man, um, no, but nobody knew me, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
was going, and when I walked in, I was just being myself. I was being smiley and happy, and I was cutting some jokes, and I was just being an 18-year-old Southern Louisiana boy, and I had a little bit of a draw, like not a Southern draw. I have a Cajun accent, so
Mm-hmm.
it's more than a Southern draw, with the cowboy hats and the hay straws. And I didn't know who Dusty Rhodes was. But apparently, the day that I got to the WWE Performance Center for the minicamp tryout before the show Tough Enough aired, Dusty Rhodes went to the hospital, or he passed away around that time. I think he went to the hospital and he passed away while I was in the minicamp. And so many people there thought that I was trying to, gimmick infringe Dusty's thing, because Dusty was just a fun-loving guy from the
Mm-hmm.
South, and he told jokes, and he was just happy and smiled a lot. And here I come, the day that Dusty Rhodes passed, smiling and happy a lot, and I got a little bit of an accent. So people didn't realize that I didn't have a clue as to who that was when I got there, and I wasn't trying to replicate anybody. And then I learned, and I'm like, oh, I got you. And it took a couple months for people to realize that that's just who I was, and I wasn't trying to gimmick and fringe, Dusty. Now, when I learned who Dusty was, even though I never got the chance to meet him, I was like, man, you know what? Okay, if I didn't know any better and I was in their shoes, I'd have probably thought the same thing. But that was the first big hurdle that I had to get over before like anything else, even to do with the show or the NXT um, training while I was there after the show or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was something that not a lot of people know.
What was your first initial impressions of this mini tryout? Was that they were trying to see who truly wanted to be there, and so they put you
Man,
through?
it doesn't matter. Okay, let me explain it to you. So everybody in the world, I don't care who you are, you Brock Lesnar, right, Roman Reigns, it doesn't matter, right? Everybody has an insecurity. They got skeletons in their closet. They got something about themselves, whether it be mental, physical, spiritual, something that they're a little insecure about, right? So regardless of how good a shape you are in, when you put on a little bitty Speedo and some knee-high boots and you get a
Mm-hmm.
little oil on you and you walk out in front of 70,000 people, your breath is gone. Gone. You ain't even took 3 steps, man. It's just gone. When that many people, and people talk about, oh, well, it's electrifying, or wow, the energy in the building is just, Yeah, man, you get that many people in one area focusing on you. It's a physical feeling that you could
Mm-hmm.
feel. So, regardless of that, you asked me about, what was my first impression about the tryouts. Um, I thought I was gonna die, man. I could pull a tree out of the ground. I could pick up a real big alligator. I could entertain the masses with my voice. But some of the things that they were doing in there with us for like our physical conditioning and stuff, that was you couldn't prepare yourself for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then, like, unless you knew how to control your breath and your speed at the same time, you were gonna get gassed. You were gonna get winded. So it wasn't bad. In fact, everything they did was completely justified. But boy, I tell you, I thought I was gonna die. I've never done cardio like that before in my entire life. That mixed with all those eyes on you at the same time, and then the more you do it, the better you get at it, and then
Mm-hmm.
it gets better. But boy, at first, whew, it was special.
How long after the camp did you find out you were selected to do Tough Enough?
It was a 3-day camp. I found out on the fourth day, so everybody got selected pretty much at the end of the third day. I found out the fourth day because, like I said, I was right on that line.
Mm-hmm.
I was right on that line between being selected and then going home. And Triple H said, "Well, let's give him a shot. Let's see what he got." Because I firmly believe I could talk really well,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that I talk, sometimes it pulls at heartstrings, sometimes it just makes people laugh, but you could get captivated. And I know me talking about myself like this kind of sounds a little conceited. I don't mean to come across that
Mm-hmm.
way at all. But in the same breath, I will tell you that by no means am I self-made.
Mm-hmm.
I believe no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you have done, if you claim to be self-made, you're lying
Mm-hmm.
to yourself and everybody else, because when you're born, you're a book, right? You got empty pages. And then as you go through life, little experiences, it could be as small as picking a flower off the ground, or big experiences like, the passing of somebody that was close to you. That is all defining who you are. So where you come from, the people that you grew up around, they played a role in making you who you are. So if you say, "Well, I'm self-made," no, you're not. No, you're not. We all born blank, and then we build a chapter book throughout our lives. So the way that I talk and the stories that I tell is completely attributed to this swamp tour and my parents, and the experiences that I had growing up as a kid. It's not, I didn't wake up one day born a great storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So,
How was your Tough Enough experience? Is there any moments that stand out more than others that you had more fun, enjoyed more than some
um,
moments?
man, it was awesome. So we stayed in the barracks in a warehouse, and getting to know the people and living with them, and then waking up, Billy Gunn coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning with a train horn on his truck and just waking us up. And if you slept in pajamas, if you was in boxers, or if you was butt naked, it didn't matter. You had to get out and run up and down the street, up and down, and you had to jumping jacks and all the morning cardio and stuff. And then he'd just leave for the next 5 hours. And like you can't go back to bed at that point, right? Your eyes are wide ass open because you don't know. It was constantly not scheduled. And what I mean is the program was very scheduled,
Mm-hmm.
but what we were doing and what they were conditioning us to do was not scheduled at all. And I'm gonna tell you as to why I believe they did it. In a match, you stuff happens that you can't plan for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and when something happens like that, you can't freeze, right? You gotta be able to mold yourself and roll with it, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of keep going and add. Sometimes stuff happens and you could use it for your storyline. Other times stuff happens and you're like, okay, well, let's uh let's take a minute and see what's going on and then make another plan from there. But you can't stop completely, and that's what a lot of this was. What was it was doing? It was mentally preparing us for having those in-ring moments, because during the time in Tough Enough, the whole time there was always something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Always something happening that would, if you was focused on something, something would happen. Your mind would get completely thrown to the left, and then you had to reel yourself back in. And you could either use it or just let it go altogether. And I tell you a story one time. Uh, well, I tell you what, never mind. We're gonna leave that alone.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just one of them things that I haven't quite. I ain't I ain't I ain't ready to release it yet. So
Okay. That's perfectly fine.
yeah,
So during Tough Enough, when you didn't win Tough Enough, how what was that transition period like? Did you know that they were going to keep you around? Did you go home for a while or?
man, I had no idea. So I thought that if you won, you went, and if you didn't lose second place, you lost.
Hmm.
Um, you go home, and that was just what it was. Well, after after my match with Cesaro on Tough Enough, we
Hmm.
decisions were final, and they got a winner, and they got the second place people, and we went to the backstage there, and I was packing my stuff, and I was waiting to get on the van to take us back to the barracks to pack my stuff, and waiting for instructions from the producers. And here comes Triple H, man. He said, "Hey, you went very far on this show. The crowd really likes you a lot. They kept you on this show for majority of it. How would you like to have uh, a talent contract with us, for the next 3 years, 2 to 3 years with NXT? We'll put you through the programs. We'll see how you do there, because just because you didn't win the show doesn't mean you're not valuable to us." And I said,
Hmm.
"I tell you what," and this was my words, and I know this might surprise a lot of people, but you got to put yourself in 18-year-old ZZ's shoes. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like my, I was a big gear here at Zam Swamp Tours, and for me to just up and leave, that was that was nuts. It's like, imagine taking a piston out of your motor and then
Hmm.
expecting it to just run like it was. It won't. So I I said, look, I'm extremely grateful for everything that has happened so far, and you don't know how happy and proud that it makes me that you came give me this opportunity to keep going in this business. But this is not a me decision alone. This is a me and my family decision,
Hmm.
because how, right? So I came home, and uh I came home and I told my mom about it, and I told my dad about it, and I told all my aunts and my uncles, and we talked about it, and they're like, "All right, go, go. Of course, you got to go. You can't not go. Go." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, no problem." And then I was like, "Can you sure?" And they're like, "Yes, go, sure, go." So they wanted, basically, everybody that's in WWE talent gets a home, or like, unless you're like a big wig and you don't have to be in NXT and train all the time.
Hmm.
You could live wherever you want in the States because you fly in all these shows, but you don't necessarily practice anymore.
Yeah.
The development side of it, they want you at the WWE Performance Center learning and honing your skills. So they want you to live relatively close. Well, I decided, instead of getting an apartment or a rental house close to the WWE Performance Center, I was going to get a Winnebago, and I was going to live an hour away from the WWE Performance Center. So I had an hour commute there and back every day, and every day I would cross Lake Jessup, and they had a lot of big alligators. It's deemed one of the most populated lakes in Florida in the United States for alligators. So I lived at an RV resort in Wekiva Falls, man, and on my off days, which was really only Sunday, that's your
Hmm.
only off day, because you got the shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Um, and then you train during the day from Monday to Saturday all day, and then you go to the shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the night. Sunday is the day where you wash clothes, you clean your house, stuff like that. Well, I lived in a camper, you know,
Hmm.
a bus. I didn't really have a lot to clean. I kept it clean all week. So I'd wash my clothes early Sunday morning, and then you know what a Hawaiian rig is?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so a Hawaiian rig is a rubber band, right? It's about the size of a grapefruit. It's a rubber band, and it's on the end of this stick that's about 6, 7 foot long. And on the end of the stick, on the other side from the rubber band, there's a three-prong thing that sits on the end. It's a spear. Um, and then you can go down and you can put the rubber band on your thumb, and you pull the stick back and hold the stick. And then when you go down there and you point the stick at something, you let the rubber band go, or you let the
Hmm.
stick go, and that rubber band will shoot it out. It's a Hawaiian rig. It's a handheld spearfishing device. Where I was, Wekiva Falls, connected to a spring called Wekiva Spring. It was super duper clear water, but everybody they wanted to swim in the spring, but they didn't want to swim down the river from it because a lot of alligators in Florida. Well, growing up here, alligators, that was a norm. And I would go swim in the river and I would kind of explore underneath all the plants and stuff. And bro, when I tell you the head, the size of the tilapia that lived in that river were massive, bro. They were like, I can't even freaking fit it on the screen. Let me see if I. They were they were about 15, 20 pound tilapia. They were huge, and they were wild caught tilapia. You know, because like I said, nobody wanted to fish or go snorkeling in that river because of the alligators. So my main diet while I was in WWE was tilapia out of the river that was on side of my RV resort that I stayed. And I eventually brought my boat down and I went explore Lake Jessup because I wanted to get back in touch with my roots. And uh, I even took Coach Bloom and Coach Robbie Brookside on a little makeshift swamp tour of Lake Jessup, you know, and I kind of pulled their leg while I was there because there's some strict coaches, man. When you in the WWE Performance Center, they don't take it easy on you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. If you can't, if your lid can't stay on the pot, you need to get off the stove. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? You can't. You got to scooch. So while we was out there, while I went take them on that little swamp tour, I tried to pull their leg, man. I grabbed the baby alligator and I act like I dropped it in the boat and it ran in their feet and it kind of, and then one time I act like the boat got stuck and I got out and I was pushing it and it was just all a big ruse, but I was working their feelings because every day at the performance center, my feelings were getting worked. So I'm like, all right, a little bit, now you in my world, you in my element. Let me show you. And then, so they kind of, they really enjoy. You can Google, YouTube it. YouTube
Mm-hmm.
it. ZZ takes Coach Bloom and Coach Robbie on a tour. So, and it, I had a bunch of fun with that, man. So it wasn't just the wrestling side of it. It was also, the family aspect because I believe brotherhood and there's no better way to build a relationship with anybody than through adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do you think all marriage couples and all people that's been together for 75 years be like communication is key? Because they've been through some stuff, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked to each other and they made it out. And because they did it together, that's what made their love stronger. WWE, you are getting physically worn out. You're getting physically exhausted, but you're doing it with people that are right there alongside you. So then you start to develop a bond because whenever you want to complain about something, those people know what you talk about and you don't feel like you're alone and different things. So you almost build like a family. You build a care. You build a brotherhood. And that's what any team.
Mm-hmm.
That's with football. That's with baseball. That's with WWE. That's with, even people that work construction. They're a team because they got to go through all this every damn day and they don't want to. So,
Was there any coaches that you liked working with more than others?
man, all of them. All of them. There wasn't really a coach that I didn't like. Um, Coach Bloom, the head coach over there, he was awesome. Bro, I mean, he was cool. He he'd give you advice, and he was always around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whenever you needed him, he wasn't hard to find. He was like he was the father figure to me in my perspective, my eyes. Coach Bloom was like the father figure of the WWE Performance Center at the time. Coach Robbie Brookside, and I don't know if he's ever going to see this or not, but if he does, Coach, I'm sorry. Pardon me. He was like the grandfather to me specifically. He was like the grandfather to me. I don't think he was old enough to be the grandfather to me, but the way he acted, the way he took care of me, the way that he was there, it was always like in a very loving way. Now practice was a different story. Feelings stayed out of the ring,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as like being there with him, um, Coach Smiley was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Known coast to coast like buttered toast. That was one of his favorite sayings. And then Coach Billy Gunn, all of them, man, all of them. There wasn't a coach that I didn't really get along with over there. They were all genuinely very nice, very well educated, very there for you people.
As your time went on, did they have any ideas or plans on what they wanted to do with you when that time came?
Man, some people. You remember when the Wyatt family came out, and then they had that fella come out with the alligator?
Mm-hmm.
So many people thought that I was going up there with the Wyatt family, and I'm like, nah, he's got that. And then they wanted, um, at the time, I was just gonna be ZZ. Man, that was my character. when you get in WWE, you have to create a gimmick. You have
Mm-hmm.
to create a persona, a character. And then you have to live that gimmick and truly believe that you are that way in order for that character to come to life and be perceived through a screen for all the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to. I had the accent. I knew all the recipes. I have so many stories about alligators and where I'm from and what I did as a kid and all that stuff that I was just gonna be the fun-loving ZZ.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was always gonna be a babyface. Well, that was the plan. I don't know. Maybe. Now listen here. Maybe one day in the future, I'll be a heel somewhere for someone. But to be honest with you, ever since I got home, man, I just kind of settled in.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love. I put on a little extra weight, and my girl made my house into a home. I started
Mm-hmm.
eating cereal in the morning. That was never a thing. I got about 40 throw pillows on my couch now. My girl made my home into a nest. So it's comfortable. I want to be there. I don't just sleep there anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
know. But anyway, regardless of all of that, um, yeah,
When did you see when your release happened? Did you see that coming? Was it something that was out of the blue?
no. So, did you happen to catch that Vice documentary I did?
I believe I did, but it's been a while.
That's okay. Um, if you To answer this question, I'm gonna send whoever's listening to this on a little bit of a wild goose chase. If you want to know the answer to that question, go look up ZZ Loop Vice, and it'll explain a lot more. Um, it'll explain more or less exactly that question there. So it wasn't something that was unexpected, but I think it's gonna surprise you as to
Hmm.
why it all happened.
What was your? Did you immediately go back home? Was wrestling something that you were still going to try to do outside of that,
Yeah,
or was it time to go home and recharge the batteries?
man. So when I got home, um, I everybody wanted me to go wrestle on the independent circuit. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, all right, okay, no problem. Let me go. I'm gonna just, I'm gonna do that. I'm a people pleaser. I'm gonna do what the crowd wants. So I went find um, an organization out of New Orleans called Wildcat Sports. And when I got there, I went through all the dues and I did all the running. And I was in there for a little while, but then it started to slowly kind of fade out for me. And I'm gonna tell you why. You are gonna eat potted meat and Vienna sausage until you get to the big top.
Hmm.
That's just what it is. There is no middle comfortable ground. You either living from couch to couch on the independent circuit or the big top.
Hmm.
Now I understand that some wrestlers have found a sweet spot. You know what I'm saying? They could make a decent living wrestling for different promoters and they charge different prices. But at the time where I was, who I was, my age, for me, this swamp tour, like I said, is something that made me. Um, this is my bread and butter. This is
Hmm.
where I was, and I couldn't give 100% to wrestling at the time, and I couldn't give 100% to this place because the more I worked here, the more tired I was for wrestling practice.
Hmm.
The more tired I was for wrestling practice, the more I got hurt because when you're tired, you get hurt. The more I got hurt, the more I couldn't give 100% to this place. So they were hindering each other, and eventually I had to pick.
Hmm.
I'd be like, man, what do I want to be known for? Where do I see my life in 5 years? What am I doing? So I came back home and I settled. And I don't have any hard feelings with Wildcat Sports, none whatsoever. In fact, I think the guy over there, Luke Hawks, he's a great guy, man. I still, whenever he has family come in from out of state and stuff, we'll do
Hmm.
tours together and different things. But I came home and I really leaned into my tour. I put all the Coast Guard and the wildlife fisheries and the taxes and the land and all that on my name, and I kind of stepped up and I took the business from my mom and my dad because they want to retire. They kind of just want to relax and live life. They've been doing it for the last 35 years, running a
Hmm.
swamp tour. It takes a toll on you. So, yeah, I've just been in the buyer. catching fish, wrestling alligators, making people laugh, driving a boat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, where my heart belongs is where I'm at. You can take the boy from the buyer, but you can't take the buyer from
Mm-hmm.
the boy, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of I've just been back home relaxing and
So,
enjoying Louisiana, sitting on side the water.
so life after WWE has been great for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any. Everybody got regrets. Would I
Mm-hmm.
do it all again? Yes. Would I change some things? Sure. But for the most part, I think it would go exactly how it was supposed to go. I don't have any like big deep regrets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by no means am I retired, right? Like I didn't leave WWE and then go sit on a ranch somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I'm not retired like that. But I did come back to my swamp tour, and I did come back to my swamp, and I did come back to like friends and family, and this life that I live here, locally known, is it's what I'm working towards now.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So not full blown retired. I'm still incredibly busy doing everything everywhere, but this is more or less where I believe that I'm meant to be.
So talk about your business here, your tours. What all do you do? What can people, where can they come and see it? What can they do?
Man, so all right, so in South Louisiana, and I'm not talking about Spooky Dookie, Princess and the Frog, New Orleans. I'm talking about extreme South Louisiana. I run a swamp tour called ZAM Swamp Tours, and I basically take people on boat rides through the swamp, and I tell them the history, all the animals that we have here. I tell them about, what you can and can't eat, and here's how you catch it, and here's how you cook it, and then I tell them stories about my past. Whether one time an alligator almost got me killed, or one time we sunk a boat, but it was okay because we floated home on a bed of mushrooms, or stuff like that. And it's just these people, they sit there and they get all awed because if you think about it, I am not doing it on nearly the same scale WWE is doing it on, but my little tours that I do, whether it be for 2 people or 85 French people or 40 people on a Bayou Easter egg hunt, when I'm sitting there and I'm telling you these stories and you're sitting there starry-eyed, lost in what I'm saying, that is also an escape from reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think the same thing that I did over there is the same thing that I'm doing here, just not the same profession.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? But it's the
Absolutely.
same goal, is the same reason. As a kid, I don't know if any kids are listening to this, but I think that it's important for you to hear this. And I'm talking about like teenagers, okay? There's going to come a point in your life where you're going to be a little bit lost. Now, whether it be with yourself or religion or family matters, it doesn't, whatever sparks it, something's going to jumpstart this in you. And then you're going to start to ask questions like, well, what's my purpose? Why am I even here? We all go through it. My purpose was to give people an escape from reality. And whether that was in WWE or doing these tours or talking to people at Walmart in the parking lot longer than I should, that's my purpose. But you all have a purpose, every single one of you. So um, just relax. And the harder you look for it, the less you're going to find it. It's when you stop looking and you just try to enjoy life and the little things is when it's going to hit you in between the eyes at 100 miles an hour. So that's a little message for you. And then but back to my tours. We do a lot of French groups in the fall throughout the winter, and then we do a lot of school kids in the summer. And it's awesome because again, going back to the kids with WWE, joy and stuff like that, man, it's intoxicating. You get 140 fourth graders that get off the school buses, and we're sitting there with like little baby chickens and snakes and alligators and turtles and everything their parents told them never touch. Don't ever touch that. And then here I am. Yeah, you want to touch it? Look, you want to touch this right there? Hold it. And they don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Because do I buy my parents or do I give in to my urges? And then they start laughing and then they start running around like freaking chickens, man. And it's cool. So um, besides that, I also teach people about coastal erosion and the front lines of wildlife conservation.
Mm-hmm.
With the Mississippi River and what it did as far as almost boosting coastal erosion because the sediment that gets carried down the river, it can't get deposited anymore. All of our sediment that used to get deposited before the river levee is now falling off of the continental shelf in the Gulf of Mexico. So coastal erosion is rapidly eating and eating and eating and eating the land. Nothing's getting put back, and it's all this stuff. And pipelines, we're fighting a pipeline that's about to cut straight through my swamp right now that poses a lot of risk to a lot of wildlife and stuff like that. So it's just I got my hands in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pots, uh, but my main concern is wildlife conservation and protecting the area of land that I grew up in and showing the younger generation because the kids are our future.
Mm-hmm.
So if you show them that yes, this ain't this animal could do this. Don't be scared of it though, and here's why, and show them how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But then say, now you know what this animal's capable of. Respect it. Don't be scared of it, because you know how it works. It's not scary, but you need to respect how dangerous it is. That's when you raise kids to be people who have a better chance at leaving a carbon footprint in making Louisiana better and staying for future generations to come. You can't just sit a kid down with a textbook and say, look, read this, learn it, now go to court and fight for this lawsuit because we don't want a pipeline here.
Mm-hmm.
Take them, show them the little bit. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sometimes when I talk about that stuff, I get a little passionate and I get into it, and I apologize.
And no, it's nice to see that you have such a passion for what you're doing. Did so? How booked up are you? Do people have to call way in advance, or is there? How does all that work?
So if you have a group of 15 or more, give
Mm-hmm.
me a call. You know what I'm saying? Just call a swamp tour. I'm gonna answer the phone, or my mom will answer the phone. Somebody's gonna answer the phone. If we don't answer the phone, I'm probably doing an amazing, awesome tour. I'm gonna get back with you, I promise. Just leave me a voicemail. Um, If you don't have 15 people or more, still give me a call. But we do tours every day, 1:30. That's my average tour every day. That's my one that's going out, whether I have one person or 50 people. And then the rest of the day is reserved for private tours, either in the morning or in the evening. If you have somebody, I try to work with everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
Zam Swamp Tours is a safe place for everybody, any kind of walk of life to come to. So whether you have whether you need a little extra care because you're in a wheelchair. Well, we have boats that are capable of taking you, but you might not want to be with 20 other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll book a private tour at 10 in the morning instead, or maybe you have social anxiety, or maybe you have, PTSD and you don't want to be around crowds. Whatever the cause is, it doesn't really matter here. I could take you, and we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna make a memory. Uh, but just call me and let me know so I can work with you. And then as far as all my French groups and my summer camps and my church groups and all the everything like that, they book a couple months in advance. But it's always pretty much the same organization. So we're setting a schedule with that. And we're not a commercialized business. I will tell you that. I'm not going to tell you where to sit on the boat. I don't have a set script. All my tours are different, depending on you
Mm-hmm.
as the person who comes on a tour. Because in other words, I can sit here for 5, 6 days, man, and not tell you everything that I know.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to live with me for a year or two. I can't cram it all into an hour and a half tour. I just can't. An hour and a half, 2 hour tour. It's impossible. So the
Mm-hmm.
more you ask me questions, the more I could talk to you about the things you want to know, and then the more I could see what you want to know, and then I could cater the tour and wrap it around to be more specific for you. So I don't have a set script. I don't have a uniform. Um, we don't have a full blown working kitchen and everything on the side. We're not 15 minutes from the city. We're about an hour out of the city of New Orleans. We're in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very uncommercialized tour. Still professional,
Mm-hmm.
but uncommercialized.
Where can they reach out to you at to book a tour?
Google us, man. I I know that sounds kind of dumb, but just Google Zam Swamp Tours. The little thing will pop up right there. You can give me a call, or you could reach out to us on Facebook. I think it's Zam Swamp Tours
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook as well, and shoot us a message and let us know. I mean, look, I'm happy to see everybody. I see people from around the world anyway, all the time, every day. I
Mm-hmm.
had two people from Germany at 1:30. In fact, the reason I'm doing this with you at 4 is because I just got off a tour with two German people, and they were awesome. They had all kind of questions about the gas that the swamp fills up and different things. So, um, but yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you want to come take a tour with me and learn a little bit about Louisiana and see some big alligators and all the things, just call me or shoot us a message.
Well, ZZ, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I'm glad that we got to talk a little bit about your time in wrestling and what you're doing now with your Swan tours. It's been it's been an honor to be able to sit down and hear you talk about what you're passionate about and your experiences in life. There's good people in wrestling, there's bad people in wrestling, and it's safe to say you're a good person, and I'm glad that we got to set something up and talk today.
Man, look, you know what? I'm sorry I procrastinated so long in getting back to you, but I am glad. You sound like a real good dude yourself, and I hope everything goes well. And thank you for the opportunity, for me to answer a couple questions. I'm sure a lot of people had,
Hmm.
and not just the where's ZZ now. It's
Yeah.
kind of that's just, oh my God. So I'm here in the bio.
Well, I will make sure to make a trip down sometime and do a tour. Bring my
Man,
kids
you're
and we'll
more than
make a
welcome.
day of it.
Yeah, you got my number. Give me a call whenever you're ready, and I'll be more than happy to take you.
Absolutely. And if there's ever anything I can do in the meantime, please feel free to reach out, sir.
Hey, you as well, bro. You as well. You got my number. If you need anything, let me know.